I'm Dr. Natalie Phillips, host of Just Connect, a show where we chat about connections through social media, learning opportunities, and through the people we meet every day. Join me every Wednesday on Facebook Live at 5:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I am an audiologist, a business owner, an entrepreneur, and a connector. This life is about connecting for the right reasons and to the right people. I believe making authentic and true connections lead to growth, change, and impacting the world. Hello. I am just posting this out. Welcome. I'll let some people kind of join in here. And sorry, just kind of getting this out here. Since we are changing where I am coming live today. So hello. I decided to talk about social media again today. I had covered a topic called ways to use social media and your influence for good. And I wanted to kind of go back to that subject because I was thinking about different things and I thought about some things that I wanted to add to that. So this is going to be part 2. I have part 1. And for those of you joining, this is Just Connect. And I have everything on YouTube. So if there is another episode that you want to watch, like what I'm referencing to is part 1 for using your social media for good. It's actually on YouTube. So this is going to be part 2, but I did want to review a little bit about what I talked about in part 1. So it's really important. Social media to me is something that's really important, and it's something that I think that we can actually learn about and use it for good. And so the last time I talked about using your social media influence for good, I had 3 questions that I wanted you to ask yourself. Number 1 was, are you on and are you using social media? Number 2 is, do you believe that what you say can and what you do can influence people? And the third question I had was, do you think that you can use a bigger platform for good and to push good out? And so those were the 3 questions that I had asked on my first episode, part 1, to using social media for good. And I wanted to also take some time and recap what I talked about in part 1. So when I talked about how do you use social media influence for good, what I really focused on were ways that we can use social media. And I had 7 ways that we could use social media for good. And how you become more comfortable with your own influence. So I wanted to review the 7 ways, and then I wanted to take you into part 2 of using social media for good. All right, so some of the 7 ways that I talked about. Number 1 was to push others out. To push others out because it's something that you believe in, or what you connect with. So if you see something on social media and it's something that either somebody has put out there, or it's something that you thought, that's really cool. I really connect with that. I wanted to encourage people to use that and push that out and share that. And so it could be, if it's somebody that you're following, it could be like an award that they won. It could be an article that they wrote, what they're sharing on their feeds. So these are just 7 ways to use social media for good. I'm recapping what I did in part 1, and then I'm going to take you into part 2 today. So push others out, what you believe in or what you connect with. Number 2 that I talked about was support a cause. Support a cause. You can have fun with this. You can take pictures. You can kind of walk through what the rules are or whatnot for this cause. And it could be funny, it could be fun, but also I wanted to point out that when you are supporting a cause, you are doing good. You're using your social media influence for good, but make sure that it's pushing that cause forward. So for those of you who tuned in, probably about a month ago, I did part 1 to using your social media influence for good, but just as a reminder to, if you are pushing out something, a cause, then to make sure that cause is being pushed forward and you're spreading awareness for that cause. Number 3 was to teach something. Teach something, drop some knowledge. Everybody has something to teach. And so hop on and teach something, whether it doesn't have to be a video, but it could be something that you learned, and make a really interesting post or put a picture on it, something visual for people to catch their eye. The 4th thing would be to challenge people. So these are 7 ways that you can use your social media influence for good. And the 4th way would be to challenge people, like stimulate thought processes and challenge people to think and take action. The 5th thing was to be thoughtful. So this could mean a couple of things. Number 1, it could mean, something, before you post, take a step back and think about what you want to post and who might read it, or who do you want to reach. Or it could also mean that you want to pause just for a few seconds or a minute or so and add something to your post that means something to you. Most of the times, things that mean something to you will help pass on your connection and your influence, because you're adding things that is important to you. So whether you post a meme, a picture, what made you stop to think that was pretty cool, or something that was profound? Chances are that if you write down what you connected with, that someone else might also connect to it as well. Okay, the 6th thing is that to use your social media influence for good, you really want to encourage others to do the same. So whether it's some of the things that I talked to you about earlier, like pushing others out, or supporting a cause, or having, supporting others when they have something to teach, or challenging them, one of those things above, encourage other people to do the same. So if they're putting themselves out there and they're taking the time to do that, then show up and support them and encourage them. And the last thing about 7 ways that you can use your social media influence for good is to use video. If you feel comfortable, right? So because a video or a live video can help you connect in real time, and you can create accessibility to a community. And I'm having a hard time seeing any comments or anything like that, so I apologize. And Anthony, nice to see you here. Thank you for joining me here. Thank you. I can't see anything, and I've gotten a couple of things going on my phone, so I didn't want to kind of follow the comments there, but I might have to. Okay, so yes, I'm going to add that. I'm going to kind of get on here and follow this along so that I can kind of see comments. Okay, so I talked about how to use your social media influence for good, and I recapped what I did in part 1 and walked through 7 ways that you can use your social media influence for good. So if you missed it, you can catch it on the replay. If you also missed it, you can catch it on my YouTube channel. I have all my episodes up on there now, and then at the end of that, I challenge people to choose one of those 7 ways to post the next time you do that, right? Because I want you to take one of these things and learn it and then use it. So that was the part 1. Now I'm going to walk into part 2 of how to use your social media influence for good. And this is going to be a little bit different. This is going to be more about personal considerations. So some of the things that I talked to you about, it's something that I've thought about that are just some things that you have to consider when you post, and you might not agree with what I've done, but these are some things that I want you to stop along the way, because, honestly, social media is a huge platform for us to be able to reach through technology and reach people that we might not have been able to reach before. And so I really want you to take the time to think about and to consider some of these things that I'm going to talk to you about in part 2 about using your social media influence for good. All right. So number 1 is, it's not all about you. Okay. So this is super important, you guys, because when I talk about it's not all about you, I'm really wanting people to think about what you're commenting and how you're posting. And so first of all, let's talk about commenting. So think about your comments. If you're on a live feed or on somebody else's post that's trying to push something out that they're doing, does your comment always point back to you? Think about it, right? So just take a step back and stop and pause and think about it. A personal page is still your digital footprint. So what you're leaving behind, what people are seeing of you, what they're learning about you. And so really, do you want it to always be showing what I call the I mentality, or the look at me mentality? Or do you want it to have it show something of what are some of the things that I talked to you about, like pushing others out or encouraging others or supporting a cause or teaching others? So your posts or your comments, do you want it to always kind of point back at you, or do you want it to point out at others? And so that's one of the considerations that I want you to think about, actually, using your social media influence for good, because it's not always all about you. So how will you spend that influence? Because social media is this platform that we all have the opportunity to use and to use our own influence, but how will you spend that influence? Okay, so that's number one, is to think about that it's not all about you, and some of the comments and some of the posts that you're talking about, does it always point to you, or does it point out to others and some of the things that maybe you've internalized and you want to share with others? Okay, the second thing that you want to consider is you don't always need to go there. You don't always need to go there. And what I mean about that is, if you're experiencing something and, life has its ups and downs, right? So we always celebrate the wins, but sometimes we get into the lows too. And number one, you have to decide if you want to share that or not, right? Number two is, the second thing is, how do you want to share that? So I'm going to take a step back and share with you guys and be a little bit more transparent about what I'm talking about, and it might make more sense. But when I was in my dark place, when I was in what I call my hole, which I was super happy to be in, I was kind of done with being out there and everything. And I had allowed, and I have to admit, I allowed certain people to put me in this hole. And it was the way that I reacted to some of the things that they said to me. But a lot of the times while I was there, there were posts that I saw that made me sad. There were posts that made me mad. There were posts that just irritated and annoyed me. But I was so determined. I was so determined not to pass any of those negative thoughts along. And I challenged myself to turn my feelings around like 180 degrees. I mean, it was crazy. Like I was so festering such negative thoughts in me, but I thought, okay, I cannot pass negative things out on social media because that's going to make everybody upset, right? And so what I decided to do, and you guys are going to laugh, and I'm totally going to let you in on this secret. Hello, Vance. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you for joining me. I know I swapped it and I'm here on my business page again, but thank you so much for joining. So I'm going to let you guys all in on a secret. But when I was in that negative spot, and when I was like I just, I looked out at social media, and I mean, you guys might have been there with me too, with elections and everything, and how irritated and how annoying it was just watching people just argue and argue. But I was so determined not to let those negative feelings that I was festering come out on social media. So instead, it was hard, but I worked really hard I had to get it out somehow though, you guys, because I'm an extrovert. So I had to get it out. But how I decided to get out my negative feelings was I turned it 180 degrees around. And instead, I only allowed myself to post positive things. Like I worked hard I could feel like there were things clawing to come out in that post, but I was not going to let it happen. So instead, I found a post and I made it like what I was feeling. I said something 180 degrees around. And honestly, it was the silliest thing that I thought. I kind of giggle at myself every so often. There were a few of my really, really close friends that were in on it, and they could tell when I was mad because I would come out with this super duper inspirational and positive post. And then they'd text me and they'd say, okay, like what's going on, So, and then, okay, I took it a step further for myself and I gamified it. So what that meant was internally, I gave myself a victory point when the person that actually hurt me liked my post. I know it's silly. And then I gave myself another victory point if they commented on it. And it was the most ridiculous thing. I felt so silly, but it gave me such energy, and it was my way. It was my therapy of kind of jumping back on to social media, but making it a good reason why, and I wasn't going to share the negative things. And weirdly enough, if you guys look back at some of my posts or back, on Instagram or something like that, weirdly enough, during that time, I got so many messages. I received so many messages and so many comments about how inspirational I was. And, it was the most therapeutic thing I've ever done. And it's not for everybody. I know a girlfriend who went through some of the same things that I did. And I had told her what I did. And she's like, I am just not like you on social media. And I can't, all these negative feelings, I can't turn around. But for me, that was something that I did. And so when I say on my point about you don't have to go there, you don't have to go there. You don't have to put out the negative things. You can put out the positive energy. Okay, the third thing that I wanted to talk about is that considerations of how you use your social media influence is choose what you're not going to post about. We think about what we're going to post about, but what about the things that you're just not going to go there for? You're not going to post about. So for me, I choose religion and politics. I will not go there, okay? The last thing I want to talk about is it is okay to disconnect. It is okay to disconnect, which means, if you're not agreeing with somebody, right, or you're reading into what they're saying or how they're acting or how they're being on social media, even though they're your friends, but if it's too negative for you, stay away and don't engage. It's okay. If you can unfollow people or unfriend them, it is not against the law, okay? So if it's something that just doesn't sit right and it's bringing negative feelings into you, you are here to make an impact, right? We all have passions. We all have things that are super important to us. We cannot let anything hold us back. And so if you're looking out at social media and thinking, okay, I cannot be on social media anymore because this is just ridiculous, you are cutting yourself off from what you have to give to share to the world. So if it's one person, if it's a few people, if it's a group that you just cannot be a part of, leave the group, disconnect, unfollow, unfriend. And Anthony says, if they aren't a part of your tribe, then move on from them. Absolutely, Anthony. There is no law saying that you have to stay connected to these people. Social media should be a positive thing for you to get yourself out there, okay? So again, some people hate social media because of the way people post. Again, I was telling you about elections, how maybe some of your friends or family members, might have bothered you. Some people love social media because it's a way to, and it allows us to stay connected. I choose the latter. I strongly believe that we can all use social media to influence and to inspire others and to use what you have and use your influence for good. And so my challenge for you today, finishing up, recapping part 1, finishing part 2 about using your social media for good, is that I challenge you to get yourself out there. It does not have to be video. It can be a post. It can be a picture, okay? It does not have to be video when I say get yourself out there. But let's all use social media for good. And think about what are some of the ways that you can change to actually do this for good. And so if you're with me, let's get out there and do it. Thank you so much for joining me. I didn't see a lot of the comments. I do see a lot of the love though. So thank you so much. And I will go back and check this out. If you've missed my part 1, go to my YouTube channel. All of my episodes are up there. Find Using Your Social Media Influence for Good part 1. I recapped it quickly on part 2 and then went into part 2 today. Thank you so much for joining me on Just Connect. And every Wednesday, come here at 5:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, or catch the replay, or go to my YouTube channel at Dr. Natalie Phillips and you can find it there. So thank you so much. Have a great evening and see you guys later. Bye.